Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome aboard the BF-109 K4 here on the Ruhr map in realistic battles. Um, Today we're fighting, obviously, in a German team versus the Allied team, so um, we're fighting Americans and British planes. Today, I usually have I have always a flying path on every map in realistic battles now, because as I mentioned, I'm flying realistic battles for over a year now. From time to time, for certain missions, I'm playing arcade battles, where certain missions are easier and certain other missions are easier in realistic battles, at least in my opinion. For war bonds or for the summer event at the moment, because I really like to get those planes and tanks that are announced, especially the Yoo-Hoo. Now, about the K4. It does have a good climb rate, it does have a good dive speed, but it is a terrible, terrible turn fighter. And in good respect, in good tradition of German fighter planes, especially to tier 3 to 4, it really can't compete in the slightest in maneuvering fights against other nations' planes. Now, a big issue or a big part of this problem, while you have to not just fight the enemy, you also had to fight the instructor, was addressed by Gaijin a few weeks ago. But then also the Focke-Wulf 190s got a overhaul of the flight model, and they are now having a realistic flight model, which would be fine if every opponent would have a realistic flight model as well. You know what I mean? Other people also have, made their opinions clear. You might disagree, you might not disagree, but this is just, my experience. But there is one thing that has changed for the better. Watch this. The 30mm is back. Yes. And that brings me to the next point. The history about this plane. Now, I believe I have this plane for over 2 years now. And I was looking forward for it, because when I flew it in arcade, over 2 years ago, and I got first my hands on it, I was excited because of the experience I made with all previous BF-109s that could mount a 30mm. That we also had, bomber spam and, the abuse of bombers in arcade. And the BF-109, alongside with a lot of Yak variants, Yak 9T, Yak 9K, they were the real counterpart. And it was just so nice to snipe those people out of the sky. Now you might think, yeah, in arcade, yeah, we have the lead indicator. Yeah, I never trusted the lead indicator, because you have to lead the lead indicator, and so on and so on. If you watch arcade videos on YouTube, you will see that rarely the people will hit the target when they exactly aim at the aim reticle. And I ripped my flaps because I'm an ultra pro. Yeah, but here again, the nice performance of the 30mm. I'm flying today very aggressive, because there is a mission. I want to get bomber kills. And with those 2 bomber kills, I got the last bomber kill I needed for the war bonds, the 80 war bonds mission, which is pretty precious to get. And 5 bomber kills, you fly the Germans. You always have, either Russians spamming bombers because they want to get the very balanced TU4, or fly Americans, or you fight Americans in their B-17s and B-29s, because they are also very challenging to fly, I guess. Now, what we saw in the beginning of this patch, of patch 1.59, was people refer to it as gun nerf. That guns don't do the damage output that they used to be. Well, for me, it was like that bombers got a massive survival buff. And at the very beginning, it was really, really, it was borderline impossible to shoot down, strategic bombers, especially TU4. But there is a video about it on my channel. Enough is said about the TU4. Back to the B109K4 and the damage model. And within every patch I've witnessed so far, I realized it, especially in arcade. With every day, adjustments were made, and at the end of every patch, just before another patch dropped, major patch, you saw those big balancing things. Everything was downright okay. 50 cals were performing okay-ish, at least in my opinion. 20 millimeters were performing okay-ish, in my opinion, and 30 millimeters were most of the time performing good. And there you can see the massive difference against the Spitfire Mach 9. And this brings me to the next thing. This is a solo warrior which is currently swarmed by at least 3 German planes, including me. And this is where I do the overloop, where I actually stall out. He does not follow me. He would be baited perfectly. But then I swing around, and I actually managed to really drop in a very good situation. He turns right in front of my guns, and sometimes 130mm is all you need, despite some sparking. So, that was my 3rd kill. Let's see how it goes on. Now at this point, I actually wanted to go back to base to rearm, refuel, repair my flap, the self-inflicted damage. But I look at the radar, look at the distance to the airfield, look at my teammates, that I really can't let them down. And this is really the pattern within German teams. Sometimes you have to sacrifice yourself, because in a 1 versus 1 engagement you have absolutely no chance in the normal game meta at the moment in realistic battles. Japanese fighters and British fighters and Soviet fighters, they really would eat you alive. And German and American planes are very challenging to fly, at least, something like Bf-109s and Focke-Wulfs and also P-51s. They are not easy to fly, but there is one advantage that Germans have, and that is the firepower. 50 cals, they are very unreliable, and they vary throughout the entire lifetime of War Thunder. In arcade, in realistic, it doesn't matter. Against ground units, they always performed the same, but against planes, they always changed in behavior and damage output. Sometimes it was really, really nice. The decision in the Indian summer event, which I might have told you about, the decision to not go for the A-26 Invader, but to go for the D-13, was down right to that you had to do more kills with, at that time 50 cals. There were not many planes that had 20 millimeters, and I guess it was back in the day when we had the old 20 tier system, and the P-38 at that time had an incredibly high rating, and I just was saying, nope, let's do it with the Germans. So, at this point, I'm damaged, and I got pilot sniped despite the weaving by a Bearcat, and those were the last 3 players. And then I spectate all the other guys. Now, the main message is, this is a swarm predator. The Bf-109 K4 is a swarm predator. And you always have to keep over 350 kilometers an hour, otherwise your performance just crumbles. You don't have, the nice life of a Spitfire or a Russian Yak or a Japanese plane, where you also have very good maneuverability even at lower speeds. No, you always have to keep the speed high, and always search, the vicinity of your teammates, as nothing is more tasty than to smack a Spitfire from the rear of an allied teammate, because at that moment he doesn't maneuver, he doesn't pay attention, he's tunnel visioning, and so overall teamwork is really, really nice within German teams, and you see it very often that German teams are packed tightly together. And that is the good side about them. And for a moment I thought this guy crashed. He obviously blacked out and recovered his pilot at the right moment. And there you can see just a little maneuvering of the Bearcat, and the Focke-Wulf is unable to get guns on him. The slow muzzle velocity of the MG 151-20s against, Aiden cannons or Russian 20mm or Hispanos is really, not very nice in the overall gameplay. Now, the Focke-Wulf lately received a realistic flight model. At least I say that the D9 flies realistic, or with a bit more realism than, let's say, the D12 or the D13 when I played them last time. Haven't flown them in weeks now. And that would be nice if all other nations' fighters would have also realistic flight models. And there was one very nice sentence I read, and I don't know where I read it, but it was from Gaijin, and it was like, I think it was a question: how do you actually, get the facts? And the answer was, we try to gather or to collect all the data we can get our hands on, but when there are no facts, we calculate them, and in the case where we don't know, we give the plane we implemented the benefit of the doubt, which might explain the hilarious performance of certain Japanese planes. But that's the end of the battle. Let's have a quick look at the post-battle result screens. And in this battle I got for 3 kills 66,000 silver lines and 4,000 research points. That's quite a nice result, to be honest. You struggle to get it, especially when you're stuck. So I also was first in team with 2,021 score points. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Please give the video a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. And see you next time on the battlefield.